today I want to come and give you all some advice and tips on taking the ASVAB. I just recently took my ASVAB about 4 days ago and I did pass. Yeah. So some of the things I wanted to talk about was first of all my process with taking the ASVAB. It was an easy process, kind of. Well, it wasn't that easy, but it was kind of easy. So when I first went to go take the practice ASVAB to see if you're even eligible to take the real ASVAB, I scored a pretty low score. I scored a 29. I think it was a 29. So then my recruiter told me to study for 2 more weeks and then come back to take the practice ASVAB again. So I studied for 2 more weeks and I studied 2 books. I studied this ASVAB for Dummies book and I studied this ASVAB book. First, I studied this book when I first went to take the first time I went to take the test, the practice test. I studied this book and I didn't even really look at this book. But then after I had to go study for 2 more weeks, I actually started to look into this book to get some more knowledge on some of the questions I would be asked. And actually in this book they actually have if you do the practice test in this book, they have some of the questions in here that are asked on the practice ASVAB, so that's a good thing. So when you see the question actually on the practice ASVAB, you'll be like, oh, okay, this is this question was on this book, and I remember the question or how to get the answer. So that's what actually happened with me. I remember some of the questions that was in this book and they asked me on the practice ASVAB. So then I was like, oh, okay, so this is this answer. So when I went back the second time to take the practice ASVAB, I scored a 40. So so that's when I went to go take the real ASVAB. I went to take the ASVAB test a week after I passed the practice ASVAB. When I went to take the ASVAB, I was really nervous and I was like, oh my god, am I gonna pass? And just I kept studying this book. On my way there I took this book. So on my way there I was studying this book and just going through the practice test and testing myself on that. And this book really helped me. I think this book is what helped me actually pass the ASVAB test, because some of the questions that were in this book were similar to the questions that was on the ASVAB. So that really helped. And when I actually took the ASVAB, I was really nervous, and then when I actually started doing the test and everything, it was well, my issue was more the math problems, because I've been out of high school for 3 years. I graduated 3 years ago, and since high school I haven't opened a book. I haven't even thought about solving any problems or anything. So so everything was refreshed to me and new. And also before I went to go take the practice ASVAB at the recruiter's office, I was studying the ASVAB for Dummies for about a month and a half. So I studied that for a month and a half, and then after when I went home, I had to study for the 2 weeks. I studied this one, the Baron's ASVAB. So when I went in to take the ASVAB, I was very nervous, and then actually as I started taking the ASVAB, some of the questions were very easy, and I'm like, are you serious? The questions in the books, these 2 books, were very complicated. And so when I actually took the real ASVAB and I'm in the room taking the test, I'm like, these questions are easy. Like, are you kidding me? Like, wow. And I know that they say if you're getting the questions right, then the test's supposed to get harder and harder as you go on. If you're getting the questions right, they're gonna give you harder questions. But my questions seem to be pretty steady, and most of the questions I was asked were in the books, and I was familiar with the questions. Most of my questions in the math knowledge was to find the reciprocal of a fraction. So to find a reciprocal, you basically invert the fraction, and I got asked a lot of questions like that, like the reciprocal of a fraction, and I got asked that question like 3 times during the test. So like inverting the fraction is like this one right here, number 18, and it asks questions like that, and the answer is A. So basically you just flip the fraction. So yeah, and so that was pretty easy because I was familiar with how to get that. And also like on 22 here, I was asked a question like this. So it's only 2 ways to answer, 2 answers to those types of questions. And so if you have a side like that's 3, 4, then you know that the other side is 5. And if you have another triangle, like the same type of triangle, and the one side is 5 and the other side is 12, then you know the longer side is 13. So I got a question just like that on the ASVAB, and I just knew it right off the top of my head, so I just answered it. I had the size 5 and 12, so I knew that the other side was 13. That was pretty easy on the test. For the word knowledge on the test, it's basic words. You just have to know the definition or know something close to the, I guess, what the word means. And that was pretty difficult for me before I studied for it, actually, because I'm not good with words, and I'm not. So I actually studied the prefixes of words, and that helped make a lot of sense with the words if you don't know what it means. So if you don't know what the word means, if you know the prefix of a word, that can help you get a step closer to knowing what the word really means. That helped a lot with me, because of course you're not going to know every word, or if you're a genius, of course, or if you're good with words, you're going to know every word on the ASVAB. But if you at least know the prefix or at least the suffix of a word, then that can help you get closer to the word. So that's basically what I studied, the prefixes of words. Also with the paragraph comprehension, just pretty straightforward. You get passages, you read them, and then they'll ask what can you conclude to the paragraph, or they'll ask what was the main idea of that passage, or things in that nature. They'll ask you questions like that. The paragraph comprehension wasn't really that difficult. Yeah, you just have to read it, make sure you understand what the paragraph is saying, and you'll be fine with that. Also in my test, I had, in arithmetic reasoning, I had a lot of questions that were saying to find the numerical value of a certain number, and they'll have letters, and the question looks kind of like this. Here on question 26, asks you like it gives you the with the number, how much the value of the number is, and it tells you to solve it. I got a lot of questions like that, and there was another type of question that I got asked a lot. Questions that look like this. Number 12 there. So it's, you basically have to multiply each of those parts of the question. And I got asked a lot of questions like that, and also asked like in the opposite way, like they'll have what like the answer is, like a to the second power minus 15. No, they'll have like a squared minus 15, and they'll be like, how do you get that answer? Questions like that. So you'll basically have the answers will be like, look like this, that, and the question will look like what the answers are. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I got asked a lot of questions like that. And the test, to me, in my opinion, I think that the practice ASVAB test that you take at the recruiter's office is way more intense than the real ASVAB when you go take the test. I don't know if they do that to make you get ready for it, but everyone's test, I'm pretty sure, is pretty different. But I think that the practice ASVAB was way harder than the real ASVAB when I went to go take it. I didn't have a problem with the real ASVAB, but when I did get asked like a reciprocal question to find the reciprocal of a fraction, I was like, I remember this question, how do I get the answer? And I was just sitting there thinking about it, like, I know how to get this answer, how do I get it? And then that's when the screen turned red and they told me to raise my hand. The screen said to raise your hand and ask for help because I was taking too long to answer a question. And then that's when I remember how to get the reciprocal of the reciprocal. So it was like, you do have to remember like how you answer a certain question, because I did forget, but that should be basically all. I think it was pretty easy. Some of the questions I did take longer to answer, but they're pretty straightforward questions. But I think for the most part they're pretty straightforward. Of course, it's normal to be nervous when you're taking a test. That's normal. Like, you're gonna be nervous, because I was like so nervous. But it was some people that were pretty confident, like they knew they were gonna pass the test with flying colors. But you know, some people it's different. Some people, they actually have to study and look into it and find out. Some people are probably taking ASVAB like years after high school, like me, and forget, and they actually need to study. Some people that are in high school that are taking ASVAB probably also need to study, because the ASVAB, they're not trying to make it easy, of course, because then it'll just be easy to join the military. So of course they're gonna make it hard for everyone. I would recommend studying, even if you do think that it's gonna be easy, because they're not making it easy. And of course you're gonna run across a question that you probably haven't seen ever, or probably haven't seen in a long time, and you're gonna forget how to actually answer that question. So it would be best just to grab a book, study what's going to be on the ASVAB, and you'll be prepared. So yeah, for anyone who's trying to take the test, I would recommend studying this book. Even though the ASVAB for Dummies is a great book, I actually studied that book, and it probably helped me understand this book more, because the ASVAB for Dummies goes into like detail about like everything, because it's for dummies, like, so it actually helps you like know everything. So I think that probably gave me a jump start into getting into this book. But of course, if you just look through what you have to study, and if you take the practice test that's in like these books, you should be good if you're doing good on that. Also, there's a website that helped me also. It's peterson.dod I think something like that, but I'll leave the exact link in the description box because I'm not sure. I think that's what it's called, but it may be a little different, so I'll leave that in the description box. So if you take those practice tests and you score a 50 and above in each section, then you're ready to take the practice test. So that also helped. When I went on that website, I was getting like a 70% in different well, when I first took the test, I was getting like a 50, and then I kept taking it because it's 3 tests, 3 practice tests. So when I kept taking it, I kept getting like 70, 80, and getting higher scores on that. So I knew I was ready for the practice test after that. So for your words, just know your prefixes, study that, and you'll be good. Yeah, so of course you're gonna be nervous. I'm not gonna say don't be nervous, even though you'll probably be nervous because you're taking a test and you really want to pass it. So you're gonna be nervous because you're gonna want to pass it, and you're gonna be like, I have to pass this test. So of course you're gonna be nervous. I was so nervous, completely nervous. It wasn't even cool. Like, I was just super nervous. And then when I would talk to people, I would hate when people be like, the ASVAB's easy, you're gonna pass it. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna pass it. But it really is easy, like, and that's coming from me who didn't know anything. So yeah, it's pretty easy. Just study, make sure you study, make sure you know what you're going into before you go into it, and you should do fine. Thank you for watching this video. Leave comments down below, like, subscribe, and bye.